GTA, Modern Warfare 2, Manhunt. Well, these are all just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to offensive and questionable games. So in this video, we're going to be talking about obscure games that either have a very dark plot or have you make pretty questionable decisions in them. You almost never play as the hero in these games. I'm going to try to bring up some games that are more on the obscure side, games that not many people know about. I'm not going to be talking about borderline illegal games like Custer's Revenge I'm not going to say that. Those are extremely controversial, but are also really perverted, and I think that could be a video for another day. I don't know. Quick disclaimer, there are obviously going to be mentions of disturbing topics, so alright, I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into it. Alright. Postal is a video game series developed by Running with Scissors. The first game in the series, simply titled Postal, was released in 1997. The game is a top-down shooter with isometric perspective, and it gained attention for just how extremely violent it was. This game franchise is often considered the most controversial in video game history. In Postal, players assume the role of the Postal Dude, a disgruntled individual who goes on a killing spree in a town called Paradise. The game features a wide array of weapons and encourages the player to engage in very violent behavior, well, at least the first game. The objective is to progress through various levels, completing tasks and eliminating quote-unquote enemies. For some reason, the composer for this game, this guy, decided to make the loading screen music absolutely terrifying for no reason. The game received a lot, and I mean a lot, of backlash and controversy due to its graphic violence and dark humor. It was criticized for glorifying and promoting senseless violence, and some countries even banned the game or placed restrictions on its sale. Despite the controversy, Postal gained a cult following and inspired several sequels and spin-offs, including Postal 2 and Postal 3. Postal 2 being the most known game in the franchise. I don't want to be that guy, but I kind of understand the ban for Postal 1 when it happened, cause it is the edgiest and darkest entry in the series, and that's saying a lot. Also, all the loading screens come from the first game, so yeah, pretty terrifying. Alright, Postal 2 and 3. These subsequent games continued the dark and satirical tone of the original, featuring over-the-top violence and crude humor. Postal 2, which you can see on the background right now, is interesting because you can finish the game without killing anyone or doing any of the horrible things the game has designed you to do. Like, you're always offered a non-violent approach. So yeah, it's a nice, friendly video game. Here we go. Baby Shaker was a controversial iPhone app that was released in 2009 and was quickly removed from the App Store. It wasn't really much of a game. A baby would be on the screen crying, and the objective was to shake the device vigorously in order to make the baby stop crying. When you shaked it enough, the baby would not alive anymore. 2 X marks would appear on their eyes. And that was supposed to be the whole joke. Yeah, I'm sure you can guess why it was removed from the App Store. The ending was intended to be funny, but it drew significant criticism from news outlets for promoting violence towards infants and trivializing violence. Here's the weird-ass description for the app in the download page. On a plane, on the bus, in a theater, babies are everywhere you don't want them to be. They're always distracting you from preparing for that big presentation at work with their incessant crying. Before Baby Shaker, there was nothing you could do about it. Now, Baby Shaker gives you a charming drawing of a baby, sure to make those with a less than iron will fawn. True to life, it begins to annoy you immediately. See how long you can endure his or her adorable cries before you just have to find out a way to quiet the baby down. Never shake a baby. What? By the way, this app costs 99 cents. Now, as far as I recall, there were some really weird apps on the App Store during this time. It was kinda trendy to make these extremely strange and gross apps, like for example the $1,000 app that literally did nothing, some other weird stuff that, yeah, Baby Shaker was for sure the most disrespectful addition to this trend. The release of the quote-unquote game sparked widespread outrage from various child welfare organizations like Stop Shakin' Baby Syndrome and Sarah Jane Brain Foundation. Apple swiftly removed the app from the App Store and issued an apology for allowing its distribution. The app's developer also would respond to the backlash on their website. They admitted it was a bad idea, and that the app was quote-unquote greatly lacking in taste. The game is actually pretty interesting because nowadays it's considered lost media. Considering the app's treatment of the subject matter and how fast it was pulled from the App Store, it's safe to say that the game is indeed lost. Though there's some gameplay footage and screenshots like the ones I've been showing, so. Also, here's an extremely weird review of the app when it came out. Hong Kong 97 is a pretty notorious video game released in 1995 for the Super Famicom console. Developed by Happysoft, it gained infamy for its poor quality and bizarre content, to say the least. For some context, some have labeled this as the worst game ever made. The game takes place in the year 1997 in Hong Kong during its transfer from UK back to China. Players control a character named Shin, who is supposed to be a relative of Bruce Lee. Yeah, that's right, you play as a relative of Bruce Lee. And armed with a machine gun, your goal is to quote-unquote defend Hong Kong from waves of Chinese soldiers invading the city. You have to delete Chinese people to win the game. That's pretty much it. Hong Kong 97 is known for its low-quality graphics, repetitive gameplay, and offensive elements. The game's visuals are notably crude, with poorly drawn and pixelated graphics. It also includes controversial and politically sensitive elements, such as derogatory portrayals of Chinese people and references to real-life events like the death of Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping. Probably the weirdest thing about this game is that the game over screen is literally a picture of someone's real dead corpse. An actual war victim. Yeah. For years, there was speculation over the source and identity of the game over screen that is literally just a gory photograph of a dead guy. Some people theorized that it was Polish boxer Leszek Blasinski, a Palestine activist named Atif Msiso, or Egyptian author Farag Foda. The actual source was finally identified in 2019. It is a still from the Japanese shockumentary called New Death File 3, depicting an unidentified man killed during the Bosnian War in 1992. If you don't know what a shockumentary is, it's basically a documentary-style film meant to shock and disgust its audience. These films tend to contain snuff footage. Most of them are real, but a lot of them are also fake, so yeah. Goose Boost has a pretty good video on the story behind this game over screen. You can go check that out. As I said, Hong Kong 97 is widely regarded as one of the worst video games ever made. The creator of the game was pretty quiet for a while. Like after the game's release, he apparently stayed pretty silent, even with all the questions being asked about the game. But then eventually on an interview, he went on to say that the purpose behind this video game was to create the worst game possible. Apparently, it was made in a week and it was intended to mock Nintendo and its strict standard for licensing games. I think the game got decently popular because of the video made on it by Angry Video Game Nerd, and also that weird game over screen. But yeah, the game is dog shit. It has some pretty offensive elements to it, though there's a pretty interesting lore behind it, so yeah. Alright, this game is super weird, so this is the most obscure game on this whole video. As the name might suggest, Empalado is Portuguese for impaled. The game's called Impaled Mario, and in case you're failing to imagine the scene, the game opens with a very visual depiction of Impaled Mario. I'm gonna try to give a description of what happens in this game. It's pretty confusing, but I'm gonna try. The game is available in both English and Portuguese, which is nice. The start screen reads, Impaled Mario, a hate letter to the video game industry and the stupid gamer pseudoculture. Shoot Mario to start. As you can see, there's a bloody thick stake running through Mario's inert body, and after you shoot Mario for the first time, he slides down the stake. You can continue to shoot, which causes him to rotate around the stake. It's very strange and graphic. I don't think I can show this on YouTube. It's very easy to find gameplay for this though. The game progresses through a series of scenes. On the first scene, there's a bed, and it proceeds to say, Miyamoto is sleeping comfortably in his bed. Shoot to kill. And you're supposed to shoot Miyamoto, you know, the creator of Mario. Second scene, a guy sitting at a table. Kojima is lunching at his favorite restaurant, and you know what you have to do. Yeah, it just keeps going on like this. The game has 10 scenes, and it gets increasingly surreal. The writing becomes less descriptive and more overstated and vague. The fourth scene reads like this. For what you expect. If you already know every novelty will come together with a new fabricated expectation. And of course, in this scene you have a minigun, and after you complete your objective of shooting everyone, the bottom box reads, The servitude is presented as a privilege. The consumer perspective do not allow us to perceive the subtleties. The game doesn't offer that much gameplay. Your only real objective is to kill everything in sight to get to the next level, and as I said, your targets include Mario, game developers, parents, and more. Another thing that sticks out is that all the lines that appear at the top of the screen in the stages are always like inciting you to kill your objectives or some edgy complaint about video games. Finally, the Nintendo ninjas did get a hold of this game and decided to make the creator remove it because of copyright issues. Now you're probably wondering, what the hell is this game supposed to be? Well, Mario Empalado is labeled by the author as an experimento manifesto game. The author's name is Pedro Paiva, and he makes these very strange and dark free games where he critiques a lot of stuff. His games are available on his blog called Los Odio PlayStation, Odio meaning hate. And in here you can also find translations and essays on a lot of things, to say the least. I don't speak Portuguese, so of course I'm using Google Translate here. Here there's like a section for his weird video games. There's a Sonic one, there's like a Teletubby one, it looks pretty spooky. In the blog he talks a lot about politics, he talks about fascism, entrepreneurship, and how video game companies have a lack of imagination, according to him. He also speaks on the gamer identity and how there's no commercial risks being taken in the game industry. There's a video of Mark Zuckerberg surfing in the middle of the blog for some reason. It's really random. There's like zero mention of the video being there. It probably has meaning, I don't know. From everything that I've seen, it's clear that this guy is really into politics and is trying to convey an important message through his strange video games and website. He talks a lot about arcade machines. He talks about how much he hates the video game industry and all its problems. Like here, he outlines some of the real problems found within the gaming industry. Pedro also describes himself as an unapologetic anarchist, so take that as you will. It's a pretty interesting blog site. The underlying message Pedro is trying to convey isn't necessarily bad, just the way he goes about it is pretty confusing, to say the least. I feel like this deserves a video of its own. There is this interview I found with the creator of the game, but again, I don't know Portuguese. If you do know Portuguese and this interests you in some way, then go ahead. Pico School is a flash game created by Tom Fulp, also known as the founder of Newgrounds, and released in 1999. It falls under the genre of a shooter. In Pico School, players control the character Pico, a schoolboy who finds himself in a school filled with, let's just say, armed people. The objective of the game is to navigate through the school, defeating quote-unquote enemies and ultimately saving the day. So yeah, basically it's a school sniping game. The game is mostly known for how graphic it is, and back then, the game's dark humor and exaggerated violence did spark both praise and controversy within the gaming community. I can pretty much only show one scene from this game, which is like the boss fight. Every other scene is extremely foul and graphic, and yeah, YouTube wouldn't like if I showed those. It involves a lot of children dying, so yeah. Can Your Pet was a popular online flash game that was released in 2010. It was developed by a South Korean game developer known as GameAid. The game is known for a twist at the end that you're probably familiar with if you recognize the game. In Can Your Pet, players are tasked with taking care of and raising a cute little yellow chick. The game starts with players customizing and naming their pet chick, and then they're responsible for feeding, bathing, and playing with it. The objective appears to be nurturing and taking care of the virtual pet. However, after a certain period of time spent caring for the chick, the game does this. So the players are suddenly given the option to sacrifice their pet, but it doesn't actually say you're sacrificing your pet. What happens is this icon appears on the screen, which looks like a bike for some reason. If they choose to press this bike, this scene plays out.
Okay, oh. No! Oh! Oh no! That's the end!
When was the first time you heard a naughty word?
I don't know!
First time I heard a naughty word was when I was...
Oh no!
I heard it from the...
I had a feeling! I had a feeling! I didn't know it'd be like that!
Yeah. Clicking on the bicycle results in it turning out to be a shredder, which shoves up your pet and stuffs them in a tin can. The shocking nature of Can Your Pet led to it becoming a pretty viral sensation, especially on YouTube. Players were initially lured in by the innocent appearance of the game, only to be shocked by the crazy and pretty funny twist. It generated various reactions from a lot of popular gamers. That's how most people know about this. I know it's not really like dark or disturbing compared to like these other games, but it was just something that I had to talk about on this video. So, yeah. .846 is an interactive virtual reality experience created by artist and filmmaker Chris Milk in collaboration with the United Nations. The title refers to the time at which American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001. The game is in VR, and it aims to provide a unique perspective on the events of September 11 by placing viewers in this virtual space that simulates the experience of being in the World Trade Center at the time of the attack. In the game, the players play as an unnamed office employee working on the 101st floor of the North Tower. They do their morning telemarketing work in a room with one other employee until during their work, the building shakes and multiple ceiling tiles fall out of the ceiling. The doors jam shut and you are essentially trapped with another employee within the room. Afterwards, a man kicks open the door and hands them a flashlight, and they're also warned about the slowly encroaching fire. It's really disheartening because you can hear your co-workers make phone calls to their families, saying goodbye and stuff. Then a guy breaks open a window to the outside, and the player is only given two choices: either jumping out the window or dying from the smoke. If you were to jump out the window, you can see the destruction of the nearby South Tower as you fall to the ground. And then as you hit the ground, the screen switches to nothing but black. And if you decide to stay within the building, you just die from smoke inhalation, and the screen also fades to black. The game is down here in the video because when it was first released in 2015, many news publications gave negative viewpoints on the video game, calling it disrespectful, horrifying, offensive, and disturbing. It's a pretty upsetting experience, but I don't think it's straight up evil like some of these other games we've talked about. It does have some redeeming qualities. Kindergarten Killer is probably the worst Flash game ever made. It's a disturbing game to say the least, that was released online in 2002. The game depicts a school sniping scenario, and of course, it generated significant controversy due to its graphic matter. I mean, the name speaks for itself. In Kindergarten Killer, players control the janitor of the school, who apparently gets fed up with the school and principal and decides to delete innocent children and teachers. The objective of the game is to cause as much destruction as possible within a limited time frame. The boss in the game is the principal of the school, who is also literally just Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not funny. It's hard to find these cameos funny when the whole game revolves around running through halls and sniping kids. Just like Pico's school, this game has a lot of dying kids. Mind you, in the game, the kids actually have guns and they can shoot you and even kill you. So that's something. The game has zero redeeming qualities to it. It's just crude. Let's move on. JFK Reloaded is a controversial video game developed by Traffic Games and released in 2004. The game is a historical simulation that allows players to recreate the events surrounding the assassination of John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963 in Dallas, Texas. In JFK Reloaded, players take on the role of Lee Harvey Oswald. Yeah, it's a Lee Harvey Oswald simulator. You know, the individual accused of assassinating President Kennedy. The objective is to accurately recreate the shots fired from the Texas Schoolbook Depository to match the official investigation's conclusions. The game provides a detailed virtual recreation of Daley Plaza, including buildings, vehicles, and the movements of President Kennedy's motorcade. It kind of goes without saying that the release of JFK Reloaded sparked significant controversy and criticism due to the sensitive nature of the subject matter. Many argued that the game was disrespectful, trivializing a tragic historical event. This was also 2004, so there were a lot of concerns about the potential for people getting desensitized to violence, or the potential impact on conspiracy theories surrounding the assassination. It was also heavily criticized by JFK's family. I mean, it is pretty disrespectful. When you hit JFK in the head, you're given the phrase money shot. It's kind of funny because the game is meant to prove that Lee Harvey Oswald did the crime, but recreating Lee Harvey Oswald's shot in the game is damn near impossible. It's incredibly hard, and a lot of people have tried putting hundreds of hours into the game, but they can't do it, so it's kind of ironic. There's also a mode added by the devs where you can just watch people crash their cars due to the panic of the shooting, and I guess this is supposed to be funny. Alright, it kind of is, but it's a Lee Harvey Oswald simulator, so let's move on. Super Columbine Massacre RPG is a role-playing game developed by Danny Lee Dawn and released in 2005. Yeah, just off the title, you can guess what type of game this is. In Super Columbine Massacre RPG, players take on the role of Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, the two individuals responsible for the tragic Columbine shooting. The game recreates the events leading up to and including the day of the massacre, combining elements of RPG gameplay with real-life photographs and audio recordings from the shooting and text-based storytelling based on the writings of the shooters. Notably, there are two combat options in the game. You can do autoplay, pretty self-explanatory, the game plays for itself. Or you can do manual play, where you get to choose between weapons like explosives, guns, you get the point. The game tries to delve into the psyches of the perpetrators and attempts to provide some insight into their motivations. Though, as I'm sure you can guess, it was heavily criticized for its plain insensitivity. At the time, 2005, the game garnered significant attention and sparked a lot of debates about the portrayal of real-life violence and the ethical boundaries of video games as a medium. So, the creator, Danny, was a student and an independent filmmaker when he made this. He said that as a high school student, the Columbine shootings resonated with him and described himself as once being a loner, a misfit, and a bullied kid in high school, just like the shooters. So yeah, take that as you will. He made some claims that a lot of people thought were really weird, and he did make the game, so the guy did get extremely harassed because of him releasing the game. He got doxxed multiple times, so yeah. Also, in the second half of the game, after, the deed is done, the shooters go to hell and end up having to fight off demons, and at the end, Satan, who I guess is the final boss of the game. The creator was also apparently inspired by Clockwork Orange for this game, and if you know anything about that movie, then yeah. There's other school sniping games like VTech Rampage, which revolves around the Virginia shooting. But I'm not going to be talking about every game from this genre in this video. There's actually a ton, and that's pretty sad. Also, there's 20 games that I left off this list. I'll probably make this a whole series and do another video with, games that I wasn't able to cover in this video. But as of now, this is the video, so if you somehow enjoyed, I would really appreciate any support, and the only way you can support me is by subscribing, if you want to do that. I know I just started, but I really do like making these type of videos, and I won't stop making them anytime soon. Anyways, see you in the next video. It's gonna be my longest one yet. It's gonna be about video game hoaxes, one franchise in specific, if that sounds interesting to you. Alright, see you in the next video.